Priti Patel breaks her ministerial rules, there are speculations around Boris Johnson's leadership, and we talk about the victims of the lockdown. Hello everyone and welcome to today's video. Let's talk about the speculations in Westminster when it comes to Boris Johnson's leadership and how the mainstream media are loving the drama and staring the whole thing even worse than it is. We just discovered yesterday that Priti Patel was on a Zoom video call with the members of the Tory party, and she expressed some views and talked about how back in March 2020 she wanted to close the borders to stop the spread and to make sure that the pandemic doesn't get worse in this country. The issue that we have is that there are a lot of things that happened since then, including the fact that, technically speaking, she has broken her collective cabinet responsibility of confidentiality by discussing that with the members of the Conservative Party, because obviously they're not part of the cabinet. Now let's go to the video and see what she actually said.
Should we close up borders early? The answer is yes. I was an advocate to closing them last March.
Yeah, so all this has now come out. Now, there are a number of issues around it. One is the way the left and the Labour Party are taking advantage of it. That's just absolutely idiotic, the way they have reacted. So Keir Starmer and her party. The mainstream media, they're not really sure how to use the drama against the government. But what we know is that initially the reaction that we had from the Labour Party, hilariously, is they're saying that Priti Patel's admission, coupled with a complete lack of strategy for testing of travellers, means that the government has left our doors open to the virus and worrying mutations. Interestingly, that this is coming from the Shadow Home Secretary, the same Labour Party who've been so complacent since day one on this issue. Now, Captain Hindsight, Sir Keir Starmer, and the rest of his gang are trying to be, on top of all things. We are going to get into the hypocrisy of the Labour Party and how, as I said, they're just taking advantage of this as if it's just a political game. This is people's livelihoods, whether lockdown or the public health issue. But yeah, before we get to the Labour Party, let's talk about the speculations around Boris's leadership. Firstly, Boris is still fine. All these the things that you see on Twitter that Boris Johnson is resigning or is going down. Highly unlikely, because he's still surviving in the opinion polls. He still has the backing of a lot of the members of the Tory party and even MPs in Parliament. However, there are a number of senior figures who are preparing for the next move. We have seen in the last few months how Rishi Sunak, Chancellor, has upped his game when it comes to social media, graphics. He's using a lot of snazzy pictures and videos. His press releases to journalists are very different to the ones you get from other departments. Very colourful, very nice. So this has been ever since he started doing these sort of graphics and pictures, and especially with the hoodies and everything. Members of the media have been speculating, because it's kind of obvious. We've seen these sort of things happen before. When Boris Johnson lost weight about a couple of years ago, before the leadership campaign started, when George Osborne became fit and somehow good looking, back in 2013-14, preparing for a potential leadership challenge, when David Cameron were, to resign. Now we have a new addition. We have Priti Patel, who's now, everything's happened at the same time. That Zoom call, that leaked conversation happened, and now we are seeing very, very, snazzy graphics coming out of the Home Office and the Home Secretary's Twitter account, and I'm guessing Instagram and all the other platforms as well. So there are all these speculations about what's going on. Is Priti also getting ready, like Rishi Sunak, for some sort of potential leadership election? This is not really any of them saying that, we're going to bring down Boris. This is just saying that we could be prepared. Again, speculations in Westminster bubble always happen, but that's what's been talked about on Twitter for the past couple of days now. Now, Downing Street in general are not too happy about this leaked claim. So one of the advisors of Boris Johnson has said that I'm not going to get into the detail of private conversations. It wasn't necessarily private, though, was it? So, that's what's been happening, and that number 10 are not too happy. Yesterday, Boris Johnson had his Prime Minister's questions with Sir Keir Starmer. This is the brilliance of someone like Starmer, who's so unaware of his own flaws and his own hypocrisy. And again, as I said, lack of awareness is something that's of a norm in the Labour Party. But let's look at this clip from the PMQs when Starmer tried to bring down Boris Johnson because he didn't close down the borders. He should have listened to Priti Patel. When in reality, Starmer himself didn't want to close down the borders.
Why did the Prime Minister overrule the Home Secretary?
Mr. Speaker, I think it was last March that the Right Honourable Gentleman, along with many others, was actually saying that we didn't need to close borders. But as usual, Captain Hindsight has changed his tune to suit events. We are facing, and it's interesting that his first few questions were about a computer glitch in the Home Office, Mr. Speaker, which we're trying to rectify. I'm delighted that he now praises the Home Secretary. In fact, a change of tune from the Right Honourable Gentleman. And I'm delighted that he's now in favour of tough border controls, because he wasn't last year, Mr. Speaker, and indeed he campaigned for the leadership of the Labour Party on a manifesto to get back to free movement, Mr. Speaker.
Yeah, how does that feel? So the Labour Party who've been, and Labour supporters on Twitter who've been somehow taking the side of Priti Patel, saying that, yeah, Boris Johnson should have listened to Priti. One, until yesterday you were attacking Priti Patel because you hate her. Two, you and your party went, in favour of open borders back in March. So I don't understand this. Suddenly they just changed their mind and thinking, oh, this is just political games. This is people's lives. And speaking of which, one of the good MPs that we have these days, Charles Walker, the Conservative MP, who's been very outspoken, very sceptical against a lot of the measures that's been introduced. He stood up in Parliament this week to bring up a very important subject. This is no longer about whether you're pro this or anti this or any of the measures or just lockdown in general. He brought up the issue of victims of the lockdown, how they've been neglected, how the establishment in general in Westminster and the media don't really talk about those who have been on the receiving end of the negative impact of lockdown.
Easy for most people in this House to comply with the law. We're comfortably off, we live in nice houses, we have gardens, we have outdoor spaces, we have access to family. The same applies to those journalists who fill our TV screens every night with their wisdom and wit about how people should comply with these regulations and how they sneer at those that can't. But Mr. Speaker, Mr. Deputy Speaker, the next 3 months are going to be really, really hard for a lot of people who don't have my advantages, my advantage of a monthly salary, a monthly pension payment. These are people who are going to be worrying about their jobs, about their future, about their mental health, about their family relationships, because they will miss people terribly, or they will be in very small environments where apparently they can only leave to exercise once a day, and then sadly, some of these people are going to break, and it's going to be too much for them. And that is when we in this place, the journalists up there with all their privileges, instead of sneering and dismissing them, instead of calling them COVIDiots, should show some compassion and understanding, because we should wear our advantages and privileges with great humility. I don't want to hear from another constituent who's having a good lockdown. I'm really pleased that you are, but my voice is for those who aren't, for those of my friends and neighbours and constituents who are struggling day in and day out, whose mental health is not in a healthy state, but has deteriorated, who are wondering how over the next few months, in the middle of winter, they are going to cope with this. So in my remaining remarks, can I just ask colleagues, can I just ask people out there who are so fortunate to show some compassion and understanding for those who are not so fortunate?
Well, I do want to say a massive thank you to Charles Walker for being brave enough to stand up in the chamber to actually talk about this, considering that a lot of MPs who are making fun of someone like Charles Walker saying, oh, these are all trivial issues, Charles. No, let's talk about the NHS saving our religion of the NHS. So thank you so much, Charles Walker. And as I said, this is the whole point of the silent majority and people who have been left behind. And right now, the media and the establishment are so complacent; they don't really care. Though at least they don't show that they care. There are words and rhetoric coming out of all political parties, but in reality, where is the action? Now, that's the whole one of the main reasons that Lacey and I on this channel decided to introduce more perks for the channel. Supporters of the channel, the ones who are obviously the members of the channel, you guys have been absolutely amazing, especially recently. We have obviously our membership is growing on a daily basis. So if you do want to become a member, check out the link in the description or just find the join button under the video. You get a lot of perks and benefits. We are adding more perks for the members, but also for the subscribers in general, because you guys, we never forget about you. It's also thanks to you guys that we can continue our work. We also do want to do something for you. I am introducing a Discord page, basically. For those of you who know Discord, you know how it works, but for those of you who don't, we're going to be able to create a community where you be able to actually create discussions. I'll be there. We could talk to each other easier than the comment section. Obviously we have the YouTube comment section, but we're going to have Discord to do more direct interactions. Again, with the members of the channel, we do a weekly Zoom video call on Wednesdays. This is from yesterday, actually, when a number of them came. We do small groups. So if you want to become a member, get these sort of perks and benefits, do it. Especially, as I said, during the lockdown, these are tough times. So I want to make sure that our family and our community on this channel, we stick together. But again, for the subscribers in general, you don't have to become a member if you can't, because everyone's going through their own personal, financial and non-financial problems. I'm going to create the Discord page, one for obviously the subscribers and one for the members as well. So stay tuned, I'll give you some more information. As I said, if you want to become a member, check out the link in the description. Thanks again for watching. I'm Tousi, and I'll see you guys in the next video.